My name's Julian Schuller. I'm not appearing on behalf of anybody.
Thank you. When you're ready, Ms. Schuller.
I understood that this was just a review public hearing when I first saw it in the paper, so that's when I registered, so it's not actually a proper submission. I just wanted to comment on a couple of parts of the draft.
That's as much as a submission as we would hope for. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I would like to commend the hard work and the quality of the draft report that the panel have put out. My first comment is on the abandonment of a well, and I see in Chapter 5 that there is recommendation that the Minister will have to sign off on approvals, and if an activity is undertaken without an approval in place, it will constitute a breach of the petroleum environmental regulations and penalties will apply, and that you recommend that the creation of a shale gas well abandonment fund in the NT. My comments were that, in further to this, in some instances, companies may have vanished without recourse to the Minister for approval to abandon, e.g. overseas takeovers, bankruptcy and sly operators. A site or well may have been abandoned without the government or the Minister being aware. Even years could have elapsed, as wells are reputed to have a life of 20 to 50 years. There needs to be some periodic review or reporting system or audit to keep track of this, especially if wells over the territory number in the hundreds or even thousands, and most sites are very remote. So that didn't seem to come out in the report that you would recommend maybe an annual audit, physical audit of seeing the wells. My second point is about hydraulic fracturing and seismic activity, and I did mention this before when we had a consultation up here. I noticed that you've mentioned that if the activity exceeds 0.5 on the Richter scale, then the drilling should cease. But my point was more in relation to the area where the proposed fracking is going to be. It is exactly 30 years since a large earthquake, 6.6 on the Richter scale, ripped through Tennant Creek. And I have experienced many significant quakes in Darwin over 50 years. It is my understanding that there is a fault line from Mataranka to Hot Springs, which is in the Douglas Daly. I also believe that the hot springs at Mataranka and Douglas Hot Springs result from volcanic activity deep in the ground. How deep, I don't know, but I have heard 3,000 feet. The Beetaloo Basin cuts across this area, and as I understand it, it would seem advisable to consult seismologists knowledgeable of the area before approving specific wells. Because if it's obviously not just solid ground in layers like we've seen in all the examples. There's obviously entrances down already because we get volcanic activity coming up to the surface. So that area, or some parts of it, mightn't be as stable as what we're being led to believe. That's basically my 2 points that I'd like to bring to your attention.
Oh, no, thank you very much. Yes, please. Just stay there one moment, ma'am, and someone will come and grab it off you in a moment. But you're quite right. There is a fault that's been located near and about Mataranka, and we will absolutely take on board your recommendation about an annual audit of all abandoned wells, to the extent that that's
just all the wells, because you won't know they're abandoned unless somebody goes and physically sees that they are. So that's quite a big undertaking if there's hundreds or thousands.
No, we will absolutely consider that. I think that's a very good and worthy suggestion. Thank you. Any questions? Yes, Professor Hart's got a question.
I just had a comment on your last point about seismic activity associated with fracking, and your suggestion that there should be consultation with seismologists before any decisions are made about well drilling and so forth.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's absolutely that statement in our report, but we certainly believe that's absolutely correct. It should happen. So I think we'll have a look at what we've written and see whether we need to just strengthen that.
You say that if the fracking, if seismic activity results from the fracking at a level of 0.5%, 5 on the Richter scale, then it should cease.
Yeah, sure.
But my point is, the seismic activity there per se, nothing to do with fracking.
Yeah.
And how is it going to, what's going to happen if you start putting wells down into that area?
Yes, we may well need to strengthen that, but I think there's an assumption, I think it's more than an assumption, I think we've actually stated that part of the overall investigation that gas companies should do includes that. It certainly includes faults. Don't know whether we've said anything about
I have to admit, I didn't read everything from cover to cover, so I could have...
Fair enough, too.
And I can't remember things these days like I used to anyway, so...
No, good point. We'll have a look and see
those were just 2 points that I wanted to bring to your
whether we need to
attention.
strengthen that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
But they're very good points. Any further questions? All right. Again, they're very good points. So thank you very much for taking the time to come today. It's appreciated. And if you haven't already done so, if you could give that piece of paper to one of those people sitting there. Thank you very much.